We're all becoming, we've got lots of different job roles, but we're all becoming economists because of all this data as much as anything else. My favourite phrase at the moment is causation isn't correlation. The amount of times actually, like, I tweeted about the Olympics yesterday, and now another 60,000 people are tweeting about the Olympics. Therefore, I must be incredibly influential. And it just doesn't pan out like that.
But in terms of data, let's not forget the real world, but also the consumers, because the data is out there for them too. There's more data available for them. And actually, well, as you said, Mark, I expect that the data I've given at one touch point carries through to all of the touch points. I expect, and their expectation of of what's available to them, how much they can get for free, how savvy they can be about selecting between brands and companies, how quickly they can get information, and what people will do with your data. Anything, people are becoming more and more aware of how much data they're giving on Facebook and giving it, so there's an almost backpedal in terms of, what are you going to do with my data? And people are becoming more aware of the data that's out there about them, and able to see, run their experience, see what they're giving away. So they not only have as much access to the data as you, but they also expect you to use that more precisely to give them a more relevant message in more immediate terms. So it's not just about the data being a benefit to us, it's a benefit to consumers because it gives them more power and more control into their hands as well.
Yeah, I think people get impatient with kind of sloppy marketing where you get a message back which is clearly just a mass marketing message. That's kind of,
they're becoming savvier, they can see through what is marketing and what is actually relevant to them and based on their past behaviour.
We're all adults here, so just very just a quick one. We kind of touched on the point there that is that we have a lot of data and we can use digital to analyse that and give us some top line levels. Now, because we're all adults, how many of you run reports regularly and just get that kind of top line data and refer to that regularly in your jobs or whatever else you do? Anyone? Yeah? And just put your hands up a little bit higher. And I'm sure there's one or two of you that aren't putting your hands up. And how many of you then actually do take that to what these guys are saying and look a lot deeper than that top line? Yeah, some of you didn't put your hands up, back up then. And I suppose the point is that because you realise what these guys are saying, it's clearer than that, it's not just about the top level stuff, it's drilling down a lot further. Do you feel that maybe digital can help us get that understanding a lot more, or is that actually something that we'll never be able to get digital to do? That's a very human thing. Anyone?
Yes.
Oh.
No, that's it.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, there's aspects of the amount of data that you can get now, especially if you just look at Facebook stats is the sort of the main one. It's strange. I've been working for a brand whose target demographic is different from the one that liked them on Facebook. So there's a bit of a confusion there because then you've got to stay on brand, but how do you appeal to all the people that like you on Facebook? And, there's a correlation there which can be made and tweaks and so on, but only if you know to look deeper into those figures and find a way. I think that there is just the information is there, but there's so much noise around it that it takes, I think, practice to filter out the shit.
I think as well, that kind of goes back to what Karen said about but like user expectations as well, because they do expect that we will be able to filter out that shit, because they can look down their Facebook activity log forever, to when they first joined, everything they've ever done, everything they've liked. They expect brands and sites and experiences to actually follow that now. I think that there's a privacy element that people worry about, and there's everything else. But actually, the next generation they just know we have that data. They know we've got the access to it, and they really expect us to act on it rather than not.
I was going to say, I think it's all very well when you give your client, I work with SME, and it's fine when you give them the digital stats that you have got, and you can go as far as you can go. But then you find with SMEs, because they're such a small team, they tend not to do any other data by themselves. So you kind of follow the breadcrumbs to a certain level and then they disappear because you don't quite know what happens after that process.
Pete, you do that?
The only thing I was going to say is I think the challenge as the data sets get bigger is being able to sort of filter out the noise, as Sean was saying. But I think it really does need sort of people with sort of different skill sets to come in and be able to sort of cut through, see the wood for the trees. And when you look at sort of big data principles, it is all about sort of getting in there, having a go, and experimenting. And I think the key thing is to tell a story with whatever data is there. It's about crafting a story from it that actually fits the user. My personal view is that in 10, 15 years' time, marketing will be so good that you just receive messages that are genuinely of interest to you at the point of the buying process that you need them, which actually gets rid of spam and privacy. And I think one of the things that was just picked up on there was this issue of Facebook data privacy and all these sorts of things. I think as a society, we have a lot of work to do in the next sort of 3 or 4 years to get our heads around this sort of data privacy protection sort of issue. Because once we deal with it, and are comfortable with it, and that's across the board, everybody in the country is comfortable with it, not just people in this room, I think things will make another step change. Because the thing that's holding back some of this conversation is that people are still very scared or very naive about how their data could be used and how they might expect it to be used. But I think it's a specialism in its own right that will emerge. Probably bound to say that, but
Well, I really, and actually funny enough, we're working with a company who are targeting over 60s, and of all, in terms of they over-index and being really scared of being scammed and fraud online, and they're really slow because they're unwilling to go past the next thing. Conversely, they're the most usual people to be frauded and scammed online. They fall for all the tax scams and all the kind of money back scams, and it's like they know what to be afraid of, but they don't know what to do about it, so they fall for it and threaten you anyway. So there's an education piece in terms of how to protect your data, what your data is being used for, and being savvy about what's going to happen to your data when you hand it over.
It's about being transparent though, because I think I've had conversations with people where they claim that social media might catch them out. If you say one thing that isn't true in one channel, it suddenly sort of comes back and haunts you. And all that it will do is over the next few years, everyone just has to be either brutally honest or have multiple personalities. Because otherwise it'll just catch up with you. And I think what will end up, 100 years ago, people were fairly straight, and it was just, you talk to the people in your village about what was going on. The change now is that we can talk to everybody in the world about what's going on. And I think we've got a number of sort of hurdles to get over to make sure people are comfortable with that kind of a concept. Just we've all got bigger ears now, I guess.
I think when we talked about experimentation earlier, I think that was interesting. I think something like Facebook advertising gives you so much scope to experiment with things. Doing multiple variants of adverts and either pulling or pushing the ones that are working better. We worked with a company that was looking to take graduates and encourage them to become chartered accountants. When we spoke to people, they told us they were interested in career opportunities, but what really motivated with them was cash. So we noticed any advert that had the salary that they may well be able to earn outperformed any other kind of advert, regardless of the message that was there. So it's all about salary. So very quickly easy to analyse that data and publish the most successful stuff. So I think I suppose if you're just looking at data purely, it gives you the opportunity in digital specifically, rather than other channels, to very quickly tailor and hone your campaigns around the audience.
Just on your point about when you explain privacy to people, or the need to explain privacy, which I think that's probably going to, or should be part of the national syllabus. The kind of, obviously with ICT and now the move to split ICT away from computing or computer engineering, etc. There's a general understanding, I think, for the youth to kind of become more aware of why certain data is collected, and things like now with cookie legislation. I've seen some really good, things are pretty bad, but I've seen some really good explanations that talk quite a few brand websites now that say that the reason that we're looking for something, we're going to implement cookies on this site or for you on your machine is the following benefits. So I think as soon as people are aware that there are certain benefits for allowing cookies or not allowing cookies, I think then they're quite happy. So it's not a kind of a panic attack which people are having, kind of, oh my God, somebody's got my data, what's a cookie, how does that work, and that kind of, I think so. It's explanation, education.
People are scared because they don't understand it. I think once you explain it to them,
you get the education point.
They're okay with it, maybe.
Do you think that's one of the biggest challenges? Is that one of the biggest challenges you think at the moment?
I think there's a challenge because it ripples all the way through to kind of government and EU legislation. The danger is kind of a knee-jerk reaction, a panic attack of kind of like, data bad. We don't want any data. You can't hold data about me. But when you do start explaining to people about what cookies are and how they work, why a certain amount of data is collected, what it's going to be used for on a website, how it's going to help you in the future with things that are tailored to you and personalised. I think it does help, which I think is your point, that it kind of, it's just getting that education process rolling, I think, still, because we assume as marketing people that people are kind of aware why we're collecting data and what we're going to use it for, and they're not always aware of why we want it. We just tell people why.
And I think for me, a lot of the conversations we're having here assumes a natural process of education, and actually I don't think that's the case. That if you look at your average consumer, there was, for us, if I said about Tesco's Club Card, for the people in this room who go, oh yeah, Tesco's Club Card, they know what you buy, blah, blah. But if your average consumer, they just get vouchers in the post, don't care. And you know, if you look at this particularly from a digital technology point of view, about whether we're talking about new social media channels or smartphones, there will always be people that don't like new technology. There will always be people who you can't explain these things to. There will always be people that just aren't that smart. And there'll also be people who are early adopters and geeks. And I think that we have a belief that in 100 years' time, everyone will be super tech savvy, but they won't, because there'll be a new technology. So the people who are tech savvy now might know some of that stuff, but I was a geek 20 years ago, and I'll be a geek in another 20 years.